Hey guys, this is Adrian over at BHA here, bringing you a new video. The great folks over at Treatlife sent me over their brand new 5 megapixel indoor cam PP10. This thing looks pretty sweet. It has all kinds of cool features. It's a very small form factor, so this thing is great for you to keep in your house and be able to keep an eye on your dogs, or maybe even use it as a baby monitor if you want. So if you're looking for something like that, you're definitely going to want to take a look at it. So without further ado, let's get started. So you can pick this thing up on Amazon's website for about 65 bucks. And if you get it right now, there's actually a $10 off coupon available on Amazon's website. And you can get to that from the link in the description below. Now we've looked at some other pan and tilt cameras in the same style as this one. BotSlab makes one, as well as SwitchBot. There's all kinds of cool features you'll be able to do with this thing. Smart AI tracking, so it will track people around the room. Obviously it has a two-way audio. It has an SD card slot for local storage. I'm ready to check this thing out. Here we go. Let's get this thing opened up here. So you can see they got lots of information on the outside of the box, like from the camera capabilities and the contents of what you get inside the box. But if we open the lid here, right there on the top are the instructions for setting this thing up, like getting it added into the Treatlife app. But just below that, we got a small box here, which inside it looks like we got mounting screws and mounting bracket if you wanted to mount this camera. A USB-C cable for powering the camera. And then, of course, a power brick, obviously used with that USB-C cable. But other than that, looks like we basically just got the camera itself. Now, as I have stated before, this camera is similar to some other indoor cameras that we have looked at. So SwitchBot's PTZ Indoor Cam 2, I think is what it's called, is one of them. And then BotSlab was another one that we looked at. Both similar 2K resolution cameras, but this one is actually 5 megapixels, so it's going to be a little bit clearer, possibly. But let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll get this thing added into the Treatlife app. Alright, so the Treatlife app is pretty much the same as the 2U app. It's very similar. It's all set up pretty much identically. So if we hit the plus in the top corner, there we can select the camera that we want to add. You can see there's only 2 options there, so we're going to select the indoor camera. Now it wants us to run through basically resetting the camera. So we're going to hold down a button on the back of the camera, which is right next to the little USB-C port. You'll hold that down until you hear the camera actually say ready to connect. And at that point, then we're going to hit next. And now we are ready to put in our Wi-Fi information. So remember, this camera does actually support both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. So you have a little bit more options there than some of the other cameras. Now, once you put in your Wi-Fi information and you get that set up, then we're ready to scan a QR code from the camera itself. Once it has successfully scanned the QR code, you will actually hear it acknowledge that it has scanned the QR code, so it'll let you know. And at that point, then it just needs to finish setting everything up. And basically it'll kind of run through that there, and there we go. So we can go ahead and rename it if we want. I'm going to actually just change it to Treatlife Indoor Cam. And there we go. Now you can see the image there, and if I hit the full screen button at the bottom, you can kind of see it in full screen mode. Picture quality looks pretty good. Everything looks good, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll go over the config in the app. Okay, let's go over the config in the app here. So you can see the buttons along the bottom there. That first one is going to be what changes the camera into full screen mode. The second one from the left is the snapshot button. The first time you're taking the snapshots or recording, you will have to provide permission for the app, of course, to access your camera roll. But once you do that, you should be good to go. Right in the middle there, we got the two-way audio button, so you can communicate from the phone to the person on the other end of the camera. Next up is the recording button, and then of course if we hit this button on the end, it brings up a little bit bigger menu there that we can kind of comb through with some more buttons there. We can view our saved recordings and save snapshots if we wanted to. We have the ability to turn on tracking and motion detection right here, or disable it, whichever one we want, as well as sound detection. There's a patrol button for having the camera patrol the room in different intervals if we wanted to. We can also sound a siren as well. And of course that last button down there is the theme color, so you can go from light to dark. I actually prefer the dark mode, so that's kind of cool. But if we hit the settings up at the top corner, we can change the name if we want. Right at the top, we can view device information, just our basic information about the device. Of course, you have the ability to configure your Alexa and Google Home setup if you needed to. There is a private mode, so if you want this camera to be disabled, you could actually hit that private mode and it will turn the camera off. Under the basic settings, let's see, we have the ability to turn off the status indicator. So if you wanted to make this camera a little bit more hidden, there is a blue light that displays on the front of it. You can disable that indicator to make it less visible. If we were mounting the camera upside down, then of course we can flip the image. We also have the ability to remove the time watermark. So there is a setting here for talk mode, so it defaults to one-way audio. Obviously, if you want to do the two-way audio, then you have to hold that button down in the app, but you can turn on two-way audio here as well. Infrared light is set to auto by default, which will give you the best picture quality at night. But you could choose to turn it off if you wanted to. Display settings allow you to adjust brightness, contrast, and sharpness here. I'm leaving it as default for now, which is right there in the middle. It seems to be pretty good. Under alert settings, this is where we can set up alerts for motion detection, which will then allow you to adjust this sensitivity, as well as add human detection and set up detection areas if you wanted to. You can enable auto motion tracking and even set up person marking as well, which is kind of cool. It's actually on by default, so I actually prefer it that way. If you wanted to alert based on sound, you could enable sound detection. In my house, I think that's a nightmare, so that's definitely not going to be enabled in mine. Of course, you can set up schedules for all of this as well. So if, say, maybe you only wanted to be enabled during the day or during business hours, then you have that ability here. Siren settings allows you to adjust the volume and length of the siren. Now this is kind of cool. Under OnVIF, this is where we can actually enable OnVIF for this particular camera. That way we could add it to an NVR if we wanted to. This might also be an option for how we can add it into Home Assistant as well. Let's go ahead and set up our password here just in case we decide to use it. Let's see, View Plus is their cloud storage option. Of course, remember this has an SD card slot that you can use for local storage. And of course, if you're using that OnVIF that we talked about, then you have the ability to record everything through an NVR as well. You have the option to link your cell phone and pay for an SMS or a call plan if you wanted to for alerts. And of course, you do have the option, as we've seen on a lot of these, to get alerted if the camera goes offline for an extended amount of time. Down there towards the bottom is where we can check for updates. But that about covers what you can do within the Treatlife app for this camera. Let's move on to the next step and see if we can't get this camera set up in Home Assistant. So there isn't a Treatlife integration for Home Assistant. But normally that's okay because you can add most Treatlife devices to the Tuya app instead of the Treatlife app, and then utilize that Tuya integration. And you can see here in Home Assistant, it kind of explains that the Tuya integration will support Tuya app or the Smartlife app. Now, the issue I ran into when trying to add this camera to the Tuya app or the Smartlife app is that this camera is not supported. And you can see the error here that I get when trying to add it to the Tuya app. So that really sucks. I like using the Tuya app for a lot of these devices just because I already have other devices in the Tuya app. It just makes it a little bit easier, but that will not work here for this camera, at least not currently. So if you remember earlier in the video when we were going over the Treatlife settings available to us in the app, there was an option to enable OnVIF on the camera. So we should be able to add this camera to Home Assistant via the OnVIF integration. So here we are in the integration section of Home Assistant. We can hit that plus in the bottom corner there, and we're going to look for the OnVIF integration. So we don't need to search automatically because we're going to have to put in the information here. So let's just uncheck that. We'll submit this. We're going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call it Treatlife Indoor Cam, just like I've already done in the Treatlife app as well. Next up is the IP address of the camera. And now for the port. It should be using 8000. It's kind of a standard OnVIF port you see in a lot of these apps. And we of course set up the password earlier when we were looking at the OnVIF section, so we're going to implement that password here. The username was kind of hard to come by, so I wasn't able to find any documentation telling me what username to use. I kind of scoured the internet looking for it, and I was able to find somebody that mentioned using admin as the username. So of course I did try it, capitalize, it did not work. But it does work with all lowercase admin. As you can see, we successfully added the camera. Everything looks good there. So now we have the ability to assign it to an area within Home Assistant if we want to. I'm going to say living room for now. And we are done. If we go over to the OnVIF integration section here, we can see the new Treatlife Indoor Cam in our list of available devices. So we don't have a lot of different capabilities here. I know that cameras added from the Tuya app give you a few more functionality. It pulls in a little bit more features into Home Assistant that you can control. But we do have the ability to disable infrared if we want, or autofocus. And it looks like we can even reboot the camera if we want to as well. But we now have the camera added into Home Assistant. And you can kind of see what that looks like here. I got a little bit of video just to kind of show you. Now, if you wanted to add this camera to an MVR via OnVIF, it will pretty much work the same way. You'll use the same username and password that we used here, as well as obviously the port, which is 8000, and you should be able to add it to an MVR that supports OnVIF. Let's go ahead and move on to the last step, and I will give you my final thoughts. Alright, so I have recorded some footage here from the camera. I wanted to get a couple of different types of footage here. So you can see the picture quality is actually pretty good. This is a 5 megapixel camera. So it's a little better than your standard 2K resolution. And you can see we're going to let that camera move around here a little bit, and we'll actually do some zoom in and out just to kind of show you how good and clear that picture is. My wife's got all the nutcrackers set up here so we can kind of zoom in and out on some of this and kind of see what that looks like. I also have some nighttime footage here using that infrared, and again, it's pretty decent image quality, pretty good. I've done pretty much the same thing here. We'll kind of move around a little bit here, and of course we'll zoom in and out as well just to kind of show you what that looks like. And for this little small indoor camera, I think you get a pretty good little picture. I mean, for $65, it's a little on the higher end if you compare it to, say, the Switchbot indoor cam or some of the other ones that are out there that have pretty much that same design. This is 5 megapixels, so it will have a little bit better quality than just the regular 2K resolution. But even though it's Treatlife, it doesn't currently work with the Tuya app, which is somewhat surprising. So if you were going to add it to Home Assistant using the Tuya app, you at least at this time won't be able to do that. So that's kind of disappointing. But another plus is that it actually supports OnVIF, which is actually kind of cool if you think about it, because it gives you the ability to add this to a NVR that supports OnVIF and record all of the video straight to that NVR. So that's kind of neat. And this did give us the ability to add the camera to Home Assistant using the OnVIF integration. So we were still able to get the camera in Home Assistant utilizing OnVIF, so that was pretty nice. Depending on your use case, I do think this camera is a pretty decent indoor cam. Obviously it has an SD card slot for local storage. You still get that two-way audio, so you can use that as a pet cam or maybe even a baby monitor if you wanted to do something like that. And if you can pick it up on Amazon with maybe a Amazon coupon or something like that, then you'll get an even better deal. I'll have a link to Treatlife's website in the description below, so if you aren't interested in this particular camera, Treatlife has tons of smart home products. Head over there, check out for yourself. I guarantee you'll find something that you do like. As always, I want to thank everybody for donating to my Buy Me a Coffee link. Every little bit helps. If you haven't had a chance, head over to my spring merchandise page and check out all the Burns home automation merchandise. And if you're looking for the latest smart home gear, you're going to want to check out SmoNet. I'll have a link in the description below. If you head over there, you can see what deals they currently have running. And if you're looking for the latest smart window treatment, you're going to want to check out Smartwings. I'll have a link in the description below for them as well. Head over there and see what deals they currently have running. If you're interested in buying and selling stock or maybe cryptocurrency, you're going to want to check out Robinhood. I'll have a link in the description below for them as well. If you sign up with that link, you and I both will get a free share of stock. It's a win-win for both of us. As always, if you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. If there are any videos out there that you want to see that I don't already have out there, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can't get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around.